My sister didn't even look up from her phone when I told her about the award. Just a thumbs up emoji in the family group chat, then silence. I'm Sarah. I'm 33 years old, and for the past 9 years, I've been an ER nurse at Community General Hospital in Austin, Texas. Not exactly the career path my family had in mind when I graduated with a biology degree from UT. They wanted me to go to medical school. My parents, both physicians themselves, had already planned out my entire future. Sarah Chen, cardiologist or neurosurgeon. They'd even started telling their friends at the country club about their daughter in pre-med. But I chose nursing instead. The day I told them, my father set down his coffee cup so hard it cracked the saucer. My mother's face went completely blank, like I'd just announced I was dropping out to join a circus. My younger sister Jessica, who was in her sophomore year at Harvard Law at the time, actually laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A full, incredulous laugh. Nursing? My father said. Sarah, you have the grades for medical school. Why would you settle? That word, settle. It would come up again and again over the years. I tried to explain. I told them about my volunteer work at the Children's Hospital during college. How I'd discovered that what I loved wasn't diagnosing from a distance, but being there in the moment. Holding someone's hand during their scariest hours. Teaching a new mother how to care for her premature baby. Being the person who sees patients not as cases, but as human beings going through the worst days of their lives. My mother just shook her head. You're throwing away your potential. That was 8 years ago. In those 8 years, Jessica graduated from Harvard Law, joined a prestigious firm in New York, made partner at 29, and bought a brownstone in Brooklyn that cost more than most people see in a lifetime. My parents' holiday cards featured professional photos of Jessica in front of the Supreme Court building, at charity galas, shaking hands with senators. I never appeared in those cards. The comparisons started immediately and never stopped. At family dinners, my father would ask Jessica about her latest case, leaning forward with genuine interest. When he turned to me, it was always the same question. Still at the hospital? As if it were a temporary condition. As if any day now I'd wake up and realize my mistake. Last November, during Thanksgiving, I sat at the far end of the table while everyone toasted Jessica's latest achievement. She'd won some major case that made headlines in the New York Times. My mother actually cried with pride. My father stood up to make a speech about how Jessica had always been destined for greatness, how she'd inherited their drive and ambition. I remember looking down at my plate, pushing sweet potatoes around with my fork, and wondering if anyone would notice if I just left. The kicker came when dessert was served. My aunt, trying to be kind, asked me how work was going. Actually, it's been really fulfilling, I said. Last month, we had this patient, a teenager who came in after a car accident. Everyone thought we'd lose him, but our team worked for 6 hours straight, and he pulled through. His mother told me I saved her son's life. My father cut me off mid-sentence. Jessica, tell everyone about the merger you facilitated. I hear it was a $200 million deal. Just like that. I disappeared again. I stopped going to family events after that. Made excuses. Work was busy. I'd picked up extra shifts. Austin was a 3-hour drive from Houston, too far for just a dinner. They didn't push. I think they were almost relieved not to have to figure out what to say to me. The group chat was worse. It was supposed to keep us connected, but it became a highlight reel of Jessica's accomplishments. Photos from business trips to London, Tokyo, Dubai, announcements about awards and promotions. My parents commenting with strings of celebration emojis and exclamation points. When I shared that I'd been named Nurse of the Month at my hospital, my mother replied 6 hours later. That's nice, honey. Jessica didn't reply at all. For my 33rd birthday in March, I waited all day for a call. It didn't come. At 11 p.m., my mother sent a text. Oh my goodness. Was your birthday this week? Sorry, sweetheart. Things have been so hectic. Jessica's firm is throwing a party for her new partnership. You understand, right? I typed out a reply 3 times and deleted it each time. Finally, I just sent back a heart emoji and put my phone face down on the counter. That was the moment I stopped expecting anything from them. I stopped hoping they'd see me. Stopped imagining some future conversation where they'd apologize, where they'd realize they'd been wrong about nursing, about me. I accepted that to them, I would always be the daughter who settled. It was freeing, in a strange way. Sad, but freeing. Then April happened. I was working a 12-hour shift in the ER when my charge nurse, Patricia, pulled me aside. Patricia had been a nurse for 30 years and had seen everything. She didn't get excited easily. But that afternoon, her hands were actually shaking when she handed me a printout. "Did you submit this?" she asked. I looked at the paper. It was an application for the American Nurses Association's Excellence in Patient Advocacy Award, the national award, the one that's only given to 5 nurses in the entire country each year. "I didn't," I said slowly, "but I think I know who did." 3 months earlier, I'd helped coordinate care for a patient named Marcus, a 15-year-old boy with a rare autoimmune disorder. His family had no insurance, and the recommended treatment would have bankrupted them. I'd spent weeks on the phone with pharmaceutical companies, patient assistance programs, and charity organizations. I'd connected them with social workers, helped them apply for emergency Medicaid, and personally drove his mother to 3 different state offices to get the paperwork processed. The treatment saved his life. His mother, Mrs. Johnson, had hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe, crying into my shoulder and promising she'd never forget what I'd done. "I guess she'd nominated me." "Sarah," Patricia said, her voice serious, "you're a finalist. They want you to come to their national conference in Washington, D.C. in June for the ceremony." I actually laughed. It seemed impossible. 5 nurses out of the 4 million nurses in America. The odds were astronomical. "Even if I don't win," I said, "it's amazing to be nominated." "You should tell your family," Patricia suggested. I thought about the group chat. Thought about typing out this news and watching it get buried under Jessica's latest accomplishment. Thought about my father's dismissive, "That's nice," or, worse, no response at all. "Maybe later," I said. I didn't tell them. What was the point? The next few weeks blurred together. Work was relentless. The ER never slept, and neither did we. We saw overdoses and heart attacks, car accidents, and strokes. I held the hand of a woman who lost her daughter to gun violence. I talked a suicidal teenager down from a ledge, literally and figuratively. I celebrated with a father whose premature triplets all survived against impossible odds. This was my life. This was what I'd chosen, and I'd never been more sure it was right. In May, 2 weeks before the conference, I got the call. I was in the supply closet, restocking IV kits, when my phone rang. Unknown number, Washington, D.C. Area code. I almost didn't answer. "Chen?" a woman's voice said. "This is Rebecca Martinez from the American Nurses Association. I'm calling with some wonderful news." My heart stopped. "You've been selected as one of this year's recipients of the Excellence in Patient Advocacy Award." "Congratulations!" I had to sit down on a box of bandages. "I won?" "You did. And we're thrilled to honor you at our national conference on June 15th. We'll be hosting a ceremony at the Grand Hyatt in Washington, D.C. And we've also arranged for you to be interviewed by several media outlets. This is a significant achievement, Ms. We had over 2,000 nominations this year. After I hung up, I sat in that supply closet for 10 minutes, just breathing. Patricia found me there. One look at my face, and she knew. She pulled me into a hug and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." Those words, I realized how long it had been since I'd heard them from anyone in my family. I decided right then that I would tell them, not because I needed their validation, but because some small part of me still hoped they'd be happy for me. That maybe, finally, they'd see that my path was just as valuable as Jessica's. That nursing wasn't settling. It was choosing to show up for people in their darkest hours. That evening, I opened the family group chat and typed, "I have some news. I've been chosen to receive a national award for patient advocacy from the American Nurses Association. There's going to be a ceremony in Washington, D.C. on June 15th. If anyone wants to come, I'd love to have you there." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 3 minutes passed. Then 5. Then 10. Finally, Jessica replied, "That's cool. I'm in depositions that week, though. Can't make it." Nothing from my parents. I stared at my phone, waiting. The 3 dots appeared, indicating my mother was typing. They disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. 20 minutes later, she sent, "Congratulations, Sarah. That's wonderful. Your father and I actually have plans that weekend. Jessica's firm is hosting a retreat in the Hamptons, and they've invited families. We already committed. But we're very happy for you. My father added a thumbs up emoji. That was it. A thumbs up emoji. I set my phone down and looked around my small apartment. The walls were covered with photos of my life in Austin. My coworkers at the hospital. The hiking trip I'd taken to Big Bend. The community garden where I volunteered on weekends. A thank you card from Mrs. Johnson with a photo of Marcus, healthy and smiling. This was my family now. The people who saw me? I replied to the group chat. No worries. Enjoy the Hamptons. And I meant it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. The next 3 weeks, I threw myself into preparation. The ANA wanted me to give a brief speech at the ceremony about my approach to patient advocacy. I worked on it during my breaks, revising and practicing until the words felt right. I also agreed to several media interviews. The ANA's communications team explained that they wanted to raise awareness about the crucial role nurses play in healthcare. They'd arranged for me to speak with a reporter from the Washington Post, a segment on NPR's Morning Edition, and, surprisingly, a spot on a special healthcare-focused broadcast that would air nationally. It's a big deal, Rebecca Martinez told me over the phone. We want to showcase the incredible work nurses like you do every single day. Work that often goes unrecognized. I flew to D. On June 14th, the ANA had arranged for me to stay at the Grand Hyatt, and when I walked into my room, there were flowers waiting with a note. Thank you for making nursing proud. I took a photo of the flowers and almost posted it to the group chat. But I didn't. This wasn't for them anymore. The next morning, I put on the navy blue dress I'd bought specifically for the ceremony, did my hair and makeup carefully, looked at myself in the mirror and thought, you did this. You earned this. Whether anyone else sees it or not. The ceremony was beautiful. The ballroom was filled with nurses from across the country, all of us wearing our best clothes, all of us beaming with pride. When they called my name and I walked up to the stage to receive the award, the applause was thunderous. I gave my speech. Talked about Marcus and Mrs. Johnson. Talked about what it means to advocate for patients when the system is stacked against them. Talked about why I became a nurse, why I stayed a nurse, why I'd choose it again and again. When I finished, people stood. A standing ovation. I looked out at that sea of faces, people I'd never met, people who understood what this work meant, and I felt seen in a way I'd never felt seen by my own family. After the ceremony, the media interviews began. The Washington Post reporter asked thoughtful questions about healthcare access. The NPR segment focused on the burnout crisis in nursing and how advocacy work can feel like swimming upstream. Then came the televised interview. It was for a special 2-hour program about healthcare workers that would air that evening on a major network. They'd been filming all day at the conference, talking to award winners, capturing the ceremony itself. The producer, a woman named Andrea, sat down with me for what was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation. We ended up talking for 45 minutes. She asked about my family. I was honest. I told her about the pressure to become a doctor, about choosing nursing instead, about the years of feeling invisible. Do they know you won this award? Andrea asked. They know, I said. They just had other plans. Something in Andrea's face shifted. I think a lot of people are going to relate to your story, she said. The idea that we have to prove ourselves worthy of our family's pride. That some careers are seen as more valuable than others. It's a conversation worth having. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was just grateful someone was interested in what I had to say. The program was scheduled to air at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I was back in Austin by then, exhausted but happy. I'd invited a few coworkers over to watch it together. We ordered pizza and made it a little celebration. The show was called American Heroes. Healthcare workers, you should know. And it featured stories from across the country. Doctors, paramedics, pharmacists, and yes, nurses. They'd edited my interview down to about 8 minutes, interspersed with footage from the ceremony and images of me at work in the ER. I barely recognized myself on screen. The person I saw looked confident, articulate, passionate. She looked like someone who knew her worth. When my segment ended, my coworkers erupted in cheers. Patricia was crying. You're going to inspire so many people, she said. I didn't post about it on social media, didn't mention it in the family group chat. It felt like this moment was mine, and I wanted to keep it that way. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and texts. I grabbed my phone groggily, assuming there was some emergency at the hospital. but they weren't from work. They were from my family. 17 missed calls from my father. 9 from my mother. 12 texts from Jessica. Even extended family members I hadn't heard from in years were reaching out. My father's texts started calm. Sarah, please call me. Then grew more urgent. We need to talk. This is important. Then almost frantic. Why didn't you tell us about the television interview? My mother's messages were similar. Honey, we had no idea this was such a big deal. Why didn't you explain? Jessica's texts were different. She'd sent screenshots, photos of her phone, showing texts from her colleagues. Did you see your sister on TV last night? Is that the nurse who won the ANA award? Your family must be so proud. Her final message. Sarah, everyone at my firm is talking about you. My managing partner called me this morning to congratulate our family. What the hell? Why didn't you tell us this was going to be national television? I sat there in bed, staring at my phone, feeling absolutely nothing. They didn't care about the award when it was just an award. They didn't care about my work when it was just my work. They cared now because other people had seen it, because it reflected well on them, because suddenly, I was worth acknowledging. I didn't call back immediately. I got ready for my shift, went to work, and spent 12 hours taking care of people. A woman having a miscarriage who needed someone to hold her while she cried. A homeless veteran with pneumonia who hadn't had a real conversation in weeks. A little boy with a broken arm who was terrified of needles until I showed him my collection of silly band-aids. This was what mattered. These moments, these people. When I finally checked my phone after my shift, there were more messages. My father had sent a long paragraph about how proud they were, how they'd always known I'd do great things, how they couldn't wait to tell everyone about my big television debut. My mother had sent a similar message, adding that they wanted to throw me a celebration dinner. The whole family will come. We'll make sure everyone knows what you've accomplished. Jessica's message was shorter. We need to talk about this. Call me. I felt a strange calm wash over me. For years, I'd wanted exactly this. Their pride. Their recognition. Their acknowledgement that my choices were valid. But now that I had it, I realized it meant nothing. Because it wasn't real. They weren't proud of me for saving Marcus's life. They were proud of me for appearing on television. They weren't celebrating my advocacy work. They were celebrating the fact that I'd finally achieved something they could brag about at the country club. I called my mother first. She answered on the first ring. Sarah, we've been trying to reach you all day. Did you get our messages? I did, I said. I was at work. Of course. Sweetie, we had no idea this award was such a prestigious thing. Why didn't you tell us? I did tell you. In the group chat, I said it was a national award. A pause. Well, yes, but we didn't realize it would be on television. Would that have made a difference? I asked. If you'd known there would be cameras? Sarah, don't be like that. We're just saying we would have made more of an effort to be there if we'd understood how big this was. It was always big, Mom. It was always important. Just not important enough. Another pause. Longer this time. We want to celebrate you now. We're planning a dinner for next weekend. Everyone will be there. Jessica's flying in from New York. Your aunts and uncles, your cousins. We want to show you how proud we are. I thought about that dinner. Thought about sitting at a table surrounded by people who'd ignored me for years. Suddenly interested now that I'd been validated by the world outside our family. Thought about my father making a toast about how I'd always had potential. Thought about Jessica graciously congratulating me while still finding a way to mention her latest achievement. I don't think I can make it, I said. What do you mean? Sarah, we're doing this for you. Are you? Or are you doing it so you can tell your friends you threw a party for your daughter who was on national television? Silence. Mom, I appreciate the gesture. I really do. But for years, I've been doing important work, saving lives, making a difference. And none of it mattered to you because it didn't come with the right credentials. Because I wasn't a doctor. Because I didn't have a 6-figure salary or a fancy title. Now that strangers have validated my choices, suddenly you're proud. That's not real pride. That's embarrassment that you missed something other people noticed. Sarah, that's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my work? Not, are you still at the hospital? But actually asked me what I do, who I help, why it matters to me. She didn't answer. You forgot my birthday, Mom. You didn't even remember until 3 days later. We've apologized for that. Have you? I don't remember an apology. I remember an oops. Was that last week? I heard my father's voice in the background, asking to talk to me. My mother handed him the phone. Sarah, your mother's upset. Why are you being so hostile? Hostile. That word. I'm not being hostile, Dad. I'm being honest. You've made it very clear over the years that my career is a disappointment to you. That I settled. That I didn't live up to my potential. And I've accepted that. I've built a life that makes me happy, with or without your approval. But now you want to celebrate me because I was on TV? That doesn't feel like love. It feels like damage control. That's ridiculous. We've always loved you. Have you? Because love isn't just saying the words. It's showing up. It's being interested in your child's life even when it doesn't look like what you planned. It's remembering her birthday. It's saying congratulations and actually meaning it, not just typing an emoji and moving on. You're being unfair. We had plans that weekend. We couldn't just cancel. You could have. You just didn't want to. Jessica's firm retreat was more important. That's fine. That's your choice. But you don't get to pretend otherwise now. I heard him take a deep breath, the way he did when he was about to lecture me. Sarah, I think you need to step back and look at this rationally. We're your family. We're trying to support you. If you can't appreciate that, then I don't know what else to say. I do appreciate it, Dad. I just don't need it anymore. I hung up before he could respond. Over the next few days, the texts continued. My mother tried guilt. We just want to celebrate you. Why are you punishing us? My father tried authority. This attitude of yours needs to stop. We deserve respect. Jessica tried logic. You're being petty. They made a mistake. Let it go. I didn't respond to any of them. I was too busy living my life. The response to the television program was overwhelming. I got emails from nurses across the country sharing their own stories. Young people considering nursing school reached out to say I'd inspired them. Patients I'd cared for years ago found me on social media to say thank you. The Washington Post article came out the following week, featuring a photo of me at the ceremony. The hospital made copies and posted them in the break room. My colleagues treated me like a celebrity for about 2 days before everything went back to normal, which was exactly what I wanted. I also heard from Marcus and his mother. Johnson sent me a video of Marcus playing basketball, fully recovered, full of life. Because of you, she said in the message, we'll never forget what you did for us. That meant more than any award ever could. 3 weeks after the ceremony, I got a call from an unknown Houston number. I answered, expecting a telemarketer. Sarah? It was my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. Of course. How are you, Aunt Linda? I'm good, honey. Listen, I need to tell you something. I watched your interview, the whole thing, and I was so moved by what you said about choosing nursing, about finding meaning in caring for people. It really resonated with me. Thank you. That means a lot. I also need to tell you that your mother called me last week, very upset, saying you'd been disrespectful and ungrateful. She wanted me to call you and talk some sense into you. My heart sank. I see. But here's the thing. I told her no. I told her that I've watched your parents dismiss your career for years, and I've watched you handle it with more grace than they deserved. I told her that she should be ashamed for not going to that ceremony, and that you have every right to be hurt. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. I'm proud of you, Sarah. I'm proud of the work you do, and I'm proud of the person you are. I should have said that years ago. I'm sorry I didn't. After we hung up, I cried. Not sad tears. Relief tears. Validation from someone in my family, finally, when I'd stopped expecting it. My parents tried a few more times to reach out. Dinner invitations. Suggestions to talk things through. An offer to visit me in Austin. Each message sounded less like an apology and more like an attempt to restore the status quo, to smooth things over so they could tell their friends we'd reconciled. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. I just said, I need time. What I really needed was space to figure out what I wanted this relationship to look like going forward. Did I want them in my life? Yes, on some level. They were still my parents. But I needed them to understand that showing up now didn't erase years of absence. In July, I got an unexpected email from Jessica. Not a text, an actual email, several paragraphs long. Sarah, it started. I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, and I need to apologize. She went on to write about how she'd been so focused on her own success that she hadn't noticed how our parents treated me. How she'd participated in that dynamic by accepting their praise without questioning why it never extended to me. How she'd been complicit in making me feel invisible. The truth is, she wrote, I've always been a little jealous of you. You chose a career because you loved it, because it gave you purpose. I chose mine because it's what they wanted, what would make them proud. And I've been miserable for years, but I kept going because at least they were proud. Watching you walk away from their approval made me realize I've never had the courage to do that. She ended with, You were right to set boundaries. I'm still figuring out if I can do the same, but I want you to know that I see you now. I see what you've been doing all these years, and it's remarkable. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. I read that email 3 times. It didn't fix everything. Years of hurt don't heal with one message. But it was a start. I wrote back. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate your honesty. And for what it's worth, it's not too late to choose yourself. It's never too late. By August, things had settled into a new normal. My parents and I exchanged occasional texts. Surface-level stuff. How are you? Fine. Busy with work. That's good. We didn't talk about the ceremony or the television interview or anything real. Maybe we would eventually. Maybe we wouldn't. I was okay either way. Jessica and I started talking more. Real conversations, not just group chat pleasantries. She told me she was thinking about leaving her firm, maybe doing legal aid work. Something that matters, she said. I encouraged her, reminded her it was her life to live. At work, things went back to normal. The glory of the award faded quickly, which was fine. I didn't become a nurse for glory. I became a nurse to show up for people in their darkest moments, to be the person who sees them, who fights for them, who refuses to let them fall through the cracks. Last week, we had a patient, a young woman named Alicia, who came in after a suicide attempt. She was 26, drowning in medical debt from a previous hospitalization, convinced she'd never escape it. I sat with her for an hour after her stomach was pumped, holding her hand, talking her through resources, helping her see a path forward. Before she was discharged, she looked at me and said, Thank you for not giving up on me. I thought about my parents, about how they'd given up on my career before it even started, about how I'd almost given up on myself, accepting their narrative that nursing was settling. But I hadn't given up. I'd kept showing up. And in doing so, I'd found my purpose. That's the lesson I've learned through all of this. Success isn't about proving other people wrong. It's not about waiting for someone to finally see your worth. It's about knowing your worth yourself, about showing up for the work that matters to you, whether anyone's watching or not. My parents may never fully understand what I do or why it matters. They may always wish I'd become a doctor. And that's okay. Their limitations aren't my responsibility to fix. I spent so many years waiting for them to be proud of me, waiting for them to show up, waiting for their approval to make me feel whole. But I'm whole without it. I always was. The award was wonderful. The recognition was validating. But at the end of the day, the thing that matters most is that I can look at myself in the mirror and know I'm living a life of purpose, that I'm making a difference, that I'm choosing, every single day, to be the person I want to be, not the person they wanted me to be, not the daughter who settled, but me, Sarah Chen, nurse, advocate, human being who shows up. And that's enough, more than enough. It's everything.